What if I told you that some of the craziest conspiracy theories weren't just wild ideas? They were real. From secret experiments to eerie coincidences that defy logic, these stories reveal how strange and unsettling history can truly be. Some of them are so bizarre, they sound like scenes from a sci-fi movie. And trust me, the last one, it's going to leave you speechless. Let's start with a story so strange it feels like something out of a surreal spy novel. During the height of the Cold War, the CIA ran an operation called Operation Midnight Climax. Sounds like a nightclub, right? But what actually happened was far darker and weirder. The CIA set up fake brothels in San Francisco and New York, luring men inside with the promise of, well, you know. What these men didn't realize was that they were about to be dosed with LSD without their consent. CIA agents watched everything from behind two-way mirrors, observing how the drugs affected their behavior. They weren't just studying these men, they were using them as pawns in their quest to crack the secrets of mind control. And here's the thing, this wasn't a small operation. It went on for years with agents describing the entire setup as fun, like some twisted office party funded by taxpayer dollars. But for the men involved, it was anything but fun. Many of them suffered long-term psychological effects, never knowing they'd been part of a government experiment. And this was just one piece of the larger MK Ultra program, which involved everything from hypnosis to sensory deprivation in an attempt to control human behavior. It sounds unbelievable, but declassified documents confirm that it all really happened. Sometimes truth really is stranger and scarier than fiction. Now, let's take a trip to London in 1952. Imagine this. You step outside, and the air is so thick with smog you can barely see a few feet in front of you. The city is silent, except for the coughing of people struggling to breathe. Over the next few days, the smog gets worse, and thousands of people die. This was the Great Smog, and while it was initially blamed on coal smoke and bad weather, the real story is far more sinister. You see, the government had known for years that London's air pollution was a ticking time bomb. Scientists had warned them that something like this could happen, but their warnings were ignored. Why? Because cleaning up the air would have meant shutting down factories and hurting profits. The result? Thousands of lives lost in just a few days, families torn apart, and an entire city left wondering how this could have happened. The Great Smog wasn't just a tragic accident. It was a man-made disaster that could have been prevented. And it's a chilling reminder of what happens when governments put profits over people. Speaking of governments ignoring warning signs, here's one that'll make your skin crawl. After World War II, the U.S. launched a secret program called Operation Paperclip. Its goal? To bring over Nazi scientists and use their knowledge to gain an edge in the Cold War. Now, these weren't just random scientists. Many of them were directly involved in horrific war crimes, experimenting on concentration camp prisoners. But instead of holding them accountable, the U.S. gave them new identities and high-level jobs in America. Some of these scientists even worked on projects that led to the space race, helping the U.S. land on the moon. It's one of those stories that makes you question how far a government is willing to go in the name of progress. And it raises an uncomfortable question. What other secrets might still be buried? Let's shift gears to a conspiracy that flew under the radar, literally. For decades, people reported seeing unmarked black helicopters flying over cities, watching from above. It became one of those conspiracy theories everyone dismissed as paranoia. But then, declassified files revealed the truth. These helicopters were real. They were part of covert surveillance operations, flying missions the government didn't want you to know about. Imagine looking up at the sky and wondering if you're being watched. For years, people were told they were imagining things, only to find out they'd been right all along. So maybe the next time someone mentions black helicopters, don't be so quick to call them paranoid. Now let's dive into something even stranger, the phantom time hypothesis. This theory claims that nearly 300 years of history between 614 and 911 AD were completely fabricated. That's right, the early Middle Ages. According to this theory, they never actually happened. The idea is that medieval rulers, wanting to make their reigns look more impressive, simply invented the years. If this theory is true, we're not living in 2025. We're in the 1700s. While most historians dismiss this as nonsense, there are some odd inconsistencies in historical records that keep people talking. Archaeological evidence from the so-called missing years is surprisingly scarce. Could it all really be a hoax? Or is it just a wild theory fueled by our fascination with time itself? And then there's Area 51. For decades, it was the epicenter of UFO rumors and alien conspiracy theories. While the truth isn't quite as extraterrestrial, it's still pretty wild. The government used Area 51 to test advanced, top-secret aircraft, planes so futuristic and strange-looking that they sparked countless UFO sightings. Imagine living in the 1950s and seeing a sleek, unmarked aircraft streaking across the sky at night. Of course, people thought it was an alien ship. And while we now know the truth about some of these aircraft, the secrecy surrounding Area 51 still makes people wonder, what else might the government be hiding out there? But not all conspiracies are about the skies. Some are right here on the ground, and they're horrifying. Between the 1940s and 1970s, the U.S. government conducted secret radiation experiments on thousands of unsuspecting citizens. These weren't volunteers. These were ordinary people who had no idea they were being exposed to radiation. The goal was to study the effects of nuclear fallout, but the victims suffered devastating health consequences. For decades, the government denied everything. It wasn't until much later that the truth came out, leaving behind one of the darkest chapters in modern history. It's a chilling reminder of how easily people can become experiments in the name of science. In 1933, a group of wealthy businessmen plotted something almost unbelievable. They wanted to overthrow President Franklin D. Roosevelt and replace him with a fascist dictator. Their plan, known as the business plot, was to use their financial power to stage a coup and take over the government. Thankfully, a whistleblower exposed the plot before it could succeed. But the fact that it was even conceived is terrifying. It's a stark reminder of how fragile democracy can be and how far some people are willing to go to protect their wealth and influence. Finally, we end with the most horrifying conspiracy of all, the Tuskegee syphilis study. For 40 years, the U.S. government deliberately withheld treatment from African American men with syphilis, all so they could study how the disease progressed. These men were told they were receiving free medical care. In reality, they were being used as human guinea pigs. Many died, and their families were left to pick up the pieces. This wasn't just unethical, it was monstrous. And it's a grim reminder of how easily trust can be abused when no one is holding institutions accountable. So, which of these conspiracies shocked you the most? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. History is full of unbelievable stories like these, and I've got plenty more to share. Until next time, stay curious and keep questioning everything.